Welcome. We're back online, and now we are continuing to work on our interaction between the asset browser and our actual main viewport. So as you can see now, we have the ability to hover over one of our assets, and if we import another one, we can check that this works quite nicely. And what we want now is to double click one of these assets, and then it should open up in a separate tab here. So we will get rid of these like dummy tabs, these tests tabs that we had here, and we will create real tabs only when there is an asset selected with a double click. Okay, so let's see how that goes. And by the way, for anyone who has joined in before, we had this weird problem with crashes at the start of the editor, and I think I was able to fix it. So the crash was mainly here. Create text mesh, but it was here within that function. I also wrote a to-do. I think you can leave that for now. I mean, I had a bit of a weird size calculation here, which I think was owed to the fact that some of the texts are dynamically scaling. They are updated, like for example the size of the text of the frame time. I think the idea was that this should accommodate growing and shrinking texts, but at least as far as I know now, or as far as I think now, that this gave some problems with data access, and because there was actually a mismatch between the size that I reserved and the size that the actual vertices have been, and I was figuring that it is actually okay to have a bigger size than the actual initial data, but it might as well be not the case. So I will have to read this up in my wonderful book. Let's see, here it is. This is my Bible, the DirectX 11 render Bible. Let's see if I can find something in there or somewhere in the internet. And but at least now I started 10 or 20 times in the meantime, and it seems to work rather well. So I guess that should be fine. Okay, so then let's continue. So what I was about to do is, first of all, probably let's get rid of our dummy testing tabs. So we have really a nice empty slate. Tab 1, and we will just get rid of this now. Maybe we can even stuff it into a nice little helper function. Create test dummy tabs, and I think we'll need the editor state. Let's create this function. And we just this is of course interesting. Why? Okay. Tab 1, why wouldn't that work? Let's see. I mean, this is here, but this is a struct in engine, which is fine. This is actually okay. Yeah. So the editor state is definitely not constant because we are changing it effectively here. So that's fine. Let's continue now. Let's continue now with a test in between. It's always good to know that things still work. Okay, yeah, but we call it still, so let's now not call it anymore. Add test, create test dummy tabs. Just don't do this now. So that should be fine. So now we should have a nice little empty tab, essentially. Empty tab bar. So the first thing we will fix now is to actually make this line nicer, because it's somehow strangely cut here. That's the first thing. Going into the asset panel rendering, and there is the gray line somewhere. This is just the title text. Panel title text. And rendering the assets. Sorry, I'm completely wrong, because this is of course the tab, main tab panel, not the asset panel. The asset panel is fine. Here it is. Separation line, that's what I was looking for. And the scale matrix is probably, yeah, I mean, it is the width. It is the width. It is the width. I mean, it should actually work. Yeah. And the width is 880, so 1280 minus 400. I mean, that's actually okay. Yeah, no, but I think it's, as we are not splitting to the full screen here, I need to say it's with half the width. Quite sure. Let's see. I think that should fix it. Yeah, because we are just rendering within the constraints of our actual tab panel, so I think this is the way to go. Yes, here we go. Okay, look. Now we have this nice little separator here. And yeah, looks much better. Good. So now we have some check asset browser inputs. So now we know that we are on the Harvard asset index, and I think we should also say that if we are not over an asset, we will reset the asset index. And so now if we are outside, this is a little bit too wide. I think we will also change that, but now I mean this is actually fine now. Okay, but I think we will just make it a little bit smaller. 32, let's say 40, 48. I think 48 might be good because we don't need to be too big here. And yeah, now it's almost perfect. Here it's a little bit, but that just makes it a little bit easier to grab. I think it's fine. And this is also too much here. I would say it is bigger than 64. Just let's make this for once. And then I think no, sorry. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, now it's much better. But yeah, let's still see if this now still works with multiple assets. Yeah, I think it's reasonable. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so now let's say we have an index now. Next, we need to find out if that index is actually pointing to an actual existing asset. Because currently we are kind of just having this grid view, which is then calculating the like the logical grid position of one of the assets, but we need to actually find out if this is actually corresponding to a real existing asset. So what I mean is this. So if now we would internally see that this is index asset 0, which is fine because we have a position, we have an asset at position 0. But if I would be here around here now, I think, or I know that we would have an asset index of 1, which is kind of defeating the purpose because we don't have an actual asset at position number 1. Okay, so this is why we need to check how many assets do we have and does the index actually correspond. Okay, let's do that now. If so yeah, let's say if the editor state Harvard is bigger than 0, bigger equal than 0, check if the calculated index corresponds to an actual asset. And of course later, this is a to-do, accommodate for scrolling offsets, because as you can see now we would only have space for a few for very few assets, like 3 or 4 maximum, but we sure want to have more, and we need to be able to accommodate for for scrolling as well. But scrolling is on a different plate on another time and day. I think quite soon, but very probably not in this stream now. Okay, so we will now do the actual check, and so let's check if the editor state is actually yes, that we can, then we can consider it a valid index, and then we can check for double click. If left mouse or mouse left, what was it? Mouse left double click, then actually grab the index, like grab the asset by the index. So we have a mesh group. And then this is the thing that we need to actually open in the top view. So what we will do is now we will go into the editor state and we will say, is there something like a current tab or something? Don't think so, right? Yeah. Oh no, we will create a tab. Editor state, yes, we will create a tab. Main tabs, push back our tab, auto. This is a model tab, equals new tab. And this will be the mesh group. I don't know, does it have a name? 0 name. I mean, this is a bit wonky. Just take the name of the first mesh. Yeah, not nice. I think we should immediately add a to do here. Give a name to the mesh group itself. And we will add the tab, but we'll just add a bit more information here. So the model type is now actually a model. The type is model, tab type model, and the model tab, the title we already have, and the mesh group is the mesh group. This is now the mesh group. And yeah, I mean, that's it. We should see now at least a tab. Nothing more yet, but we should now see a tab when we double click. Let's cross the fingers. And nothing happens. Okay, let's debug it. No worries. Let's probably go in here now. I mean, let's see if we even come here, or if the whole recognition is already wrong. Let's maybe do something else. If mouse left click, just see if a single click works. Yeah. Okay, something's just off with the double click. Okay, we'll look at that. For now, we can also live with a single click. That's not a big issue. That's not a big issue. And let's see if that just works. Oh, yeah, it does not work because the text mesh is empty. Why is that? Where does the text mesh come from? Oh, yes, okay. The title text mesh. I think that makes sense because I do not create the test-me because I need to do that. Yes, that makes sense. I was missing that. Fair enough. My bad. No, it's just my bad. But the text is, of course. Oh yeah, I've just to give a name to the mesh group itself, and this will then be the model tab. I mean, let's probably just call this the name. This will be the mesh group. Meshes, and this is now the name, and let's move that up here. It's a little bit nice. Oh no, oh no, oh no. And this is now the name, and this is again the name, and I think it should work now. Okay, let's see. Here we go, and now, hey, we see a new tab here. Now let's do the ultimate test. Let's see how that goes. The name is again probably mesh 0. No, okay, it's called lower armor. Yeah, that's a problem with the submesh, but it's nice. I mean, that's totally okay. And let's also load this, and now we have and the mesh is called cube. Yeah, super nice. And I think if I do that now, yeah, I can create 100 tabs. Doesn't make sense. So we will now need to have a function which assets are already existing in a tab, and we only will open a new one if it does not exist. Let's probably do that right away. I think it should not be too complicated. So we will probably need a small helper function that is called boolean asset is already open in tab. We will give it the name of the tab name, or tab title, maybe better, and it will also need an editor state, and then it will just yeah, I mean that's more or less it. And we will say if asset is already open in tab. If this is not the case, and we will just first extract the name here, then this is the name and this is the editor state. Only if we don't have the tab already, we will create a new one. Otherwise, we should just make the tab the current one, but we don't have a concept of a current tab now anyway. So that will be next. But let's just check this out. Let's test this out. Let's see if this works now. Okay, we have a mesh 0 and we can click on it, and now we put some other stuff in here. And we can open it once, we can open it twice, but it doesn't open anymore. Okay. I mean, that's already some kind of nice functionality right there, right? Okay. Now we should probably anyway concentrate on the functionality of which is the currently active tab. Okay, so first of all, let's just create a variable for that. Check asset browser inputs, and we will now just switch to declare the current tab to be the one with the just selected asset, because here we can now already assume that we have one, because the asset is already open by definition. Or we could also just do it like this. Maybe a little bit nicer. I just don't like if nots. I'll just set the current tab to be the selected one here. So we have the editor state, and we just say that we have now something like a current main tab. Current main tab title equals name, because now first of all we will create this property, and we'll probably put it somewhere where the main tabs are. Yeah, but I mean, that's fine. Now when we render the asset panel, what we'll do, if not the asset panel, the main tab panel, I'm always mixing this up. Horrible, absolutely horrible. But what can you do? You can do absolutely nothing about this. So just a little bit of cleaning up along the way. And we will just say if I think we will say if okay, we have the tabs. So if this is the current tab, if editor state current main tab title equals tab header title, then make the background light, and if not, make it darker. So now we should actually see some rather effective switching, I guess. Here we go. Let's add a few more of these test stuffs. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that nice? And I think that's kind of efficient. Yeah. So now what that means is that we have the knowledge that this is actually like the current selected tab, and now we will actually render the contents. Okay, so render the title text, that's fine, separation line. And now what we will do is I'm just thinking, do we do this here, or do we move this to the code where we actually render the 3D panel? I mean, it's probably better to do it from here, maybe. Yeah, I think that's what we should do. Just looking for the render 3D panel, because that's what we will need to call. So, and if this is true, we will do two things. Yeah, I mean, it could work. Yeah. I mean, I'm not totally sure about that, but let's see. Maybe this is total chaos now, because we're actually, because what that would mean is that now we would, no, I think that this is not a good idea. We cannot do it like that, because when we are in the middle of a bound frame buffer, and if we go now into render 3D panel, we would bind to another frame buffer, and I think that is total chaos. I think that just does not work. No, we need to do this differently. We will actually move this again here, and we will probably rename this even. So something like render main viewport body, and we can probably take this because these are the right dimensions, but we will then just shamelessly reuse our own code here, and we will just call it render main viewport. Main viewport body. Okay, so be it. Yeah, because it's actually only the small body part, right? And let's now also do the same thing, and I actually just recheck if editor state, no, main tabs, no, current main tab title. Find tab by name. So we will give it the list of editor state main tabs, and the name is editor state current tab name. No, current main tab title. Just create that function. In tabs, if tab header title equals, no, it's not called string, this is the title. Let's call this tab by title, much better. Equals title return tab. Return null pointer. Auto current tab. So if we have a current tab, if current tab is not null pointer, and if current tab type is a tab model, tab type model, then we will render the 3D panel, right? Essentially at the same origin and all these things. We will also reuse the width and the height, and we will also pass on the editor state because we can, and it just makes sense. So why would that be a problem? Yeah, but let's probably make it a little bit nicer up there. Ah, yes, okay. There is this stupid function here. Okay. So, I mean, let's just see how that turns out. Okay, I'm not totally sure about that now. So if there is, it's actually interesting. So we have render 3D panel. Ah, yes, okay. Sorry. This was the reason, because I was wondering why did we see the 3D panel right away. Should not have been the case, but I think this is the reason, because we just rendered it. And here we go. Now, of course, oh yeah, actually interesting. Okay. But yeah, I mean, this does not work now, because rendering the 3D panel does just not at all honor the current mesh. So I think we should change this anyway. So we can remove it from here. And what we actually want, whoops, the 3D panel is probably, it's a little bit misleading. I think we should just call it render mesh editor, because that's more what it is. But it will be very similar. We will now start with copy pasting it, and then we'll refine it. But what we will also do is we will give it a mesh group to actually render. And so the vision for this mesh editor is that it will show all the submeshes, all the materials, and then you can later on, if it's a skeletal mesh, you can also see the bones. And if it is a skeletal mesh and if it has some animations, I think this then would also be a good place to have it, to offer up a like an animation editor where you can, at least for the first iterations, we will just have an option to at least play all the animations that are bound to this mesh. Okay, so let's see. Let's essentially really copy all of this for now. I think it's really okay. And we will then probably rework this render 3D panel function a little bit later into what we will use as the rendering of the actual level. Yeah, because that's also very important. Yeah, you want to see the actual level. And yeah, makes sense. So this is now the mesh group. And now we will not render the 3D panel anymore, but we will render mesh editor, and the mesh group is the tab, is the current tab mesh group. Yep. And here we do not go over all the game objects or something like that for the mesh in the mesh group. Sorry. Get rid of the bracket here. Move this one tab back. Render each mesh of this group. And cannot use that. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And there is something red here. I guess there is. No, that's fine. We don't need the game object position here. We will just put everything into dead center, and that's fine. For now, no rotation. Or maybe let's even rotate a little bit. Why not? It gives it a little bit more. That makes it really nice. Like on a turntable. Wow, let's see if that works. I'm 50% optimistic that it works. Begin. What is begin here? What is begin? Okay, yeah, the mesh group is, of course, yes. The mesh group needs meshes. That makes sense. Let's see if this works. That would be kind of cool. Not so cool. Ah, yeah, here we go. I mean, isn't that cool? And now go to another, change that, make it, wow, I like that. I mean, that's pretty cool. that's pretty cool, actually. Right. This is pretty nice. And now if we have something animated, I guess that would also work now. Yeah, it's animating, it's rotating. Pure class. Pure class. That's nice. Nice stuff. We can congratulate ourselves. Ah yeah, and so one thing for sure missing is now that we cannot use these tabs. Let's try to tackle that for today. There's around 15 minutes left. Maybe we can do that. Let's see. So that's already quite nice. That's already quite nice. So we have check asset browser inputs. Now we will do check main tab inputs, and it will take an editor state. Okay, so we do not have a top offset. I mean, we actually have. I think it's only 32. And now the vertical size, yeah, I mean, that's actually kind of, it's not so easy now, because all the tabs are not created equal, because every tab has a different length. But I think it will not have so many. We don't actually have so many tabs, so I think we can just iterate over the tabs and see if the mouse is over the tab, right? I think it's kind of, can do it that way. I just didn't do it in the asset browser because I'm expecting much more assets, potentially, like really probably hundreds, maybe even more for a game, and that would slow things down. But I think we will never have so many tabs open, at least not visible, and we only have to check for the visible tabs, right? Yeah. Okay. So the top offset we can keep. Now let's see. I mean, we need some information where we actually render the main tab, right? Because where we render it is where we actually want to. It's where we want to check it. And now what we could do is we could store with each tab the actual current rendered information. Yeah, I think that would be nice, because then we can make the check rather easily. That would actually be cool. Actually, we need exactly the size of this background rectangle. Yeah. Yes, that's what we need. And so we will have the tab, and we will call it render bounding box equals horizontal offset. I mean, this is essentially, wow. Yeah, but I mean, this is inside. Yeah, anyway. The render bounding box, top render bounding box. So we need left, right, bottom, and top. Left is exactly that, horizontal offset. Right is then the title width plus, sorry, oh no, what's going on? Cannot type anymore. Plus 16, and then we have the bottom is essentially the bottom is 32. and the bottom is 0. Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally happy with that. And let's see, I think because we have a bounding box on the, yeah. So this is not a local bounding box. Yeah, but that's fine. Just use this as a float. So now when we say check main tab inputs, so what we can do now is we go through all the tabs, edit the state main tabs, and let's now check if mouse X, I mean we also need the horizontal offset in fact. The V offset, I mean, I also need the H offset, and the H offset is essentially 200 from the left. So if mouse X is bigger than the H offset, so online again, that was just a quick interruption. And let's just see how we can do that. So we have the H offset and the mouse X, no, so H offset plus, oops, H offset plus the actual tab, render bounding box left, and mouse X is smaller than the H offset plus the tab render bounding box right, and mouse Y. So I'm not sure if we will get that right now in the next 10 minutes, but let's see. Okay, he made the IDE made a small proposal here. Let's see if that makes sense. If it is bigger than the render top, yeah, makes sense, and smaller than the bottom, yeah, because we are top down. Actually, not that bad. This is of course a hallucination here. And I think that's, yeah, that's already fine. So we can now say we have a editor state current hover tab title equals tab title. Yeah, no, I'm also not I'm also not sure if it's kind of clever to only rely on these on the title name all the time, but I will keep it for now because it's also kind of lightweight, and we don't need to pass the tab pointers around, but which also of course would be an option, or why not. But yeah, I mean, maybe we stay a little bit more independent if we are just sticking with the strings. Anyway, let's add this field. It's a string, that's fine. And let's just see if we can write this out. And we can even use this one here. Current hover tab title. Let's see if this somehow works. No, nothing's happening. So now there should be something happening here, but nothing is happening. But I mean, we can kind of debug it for ourselves. So then this would be the offset. So the offset is 200. That's fine. And it's 32, bigger than 32. That would also work. So the offset would be 200 and left. I mean, let's maybe check. But I think we just don't call it anyway. Ha 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 ha. Check main tab inputs. Let's check this now. Let's check this. Let's check this out. Hover tab mesh 0. No, that's not how it's meant to be. Check, because if we do not have this, we should probably just say editor state current main tab title is and we will probably do that if editor state current tab title not empty, print it out. And every time when we check this, it's set to empty. Then we do our nice check, and then if we found something, it will be set, and then we can print it out, but not always. Let's see. Okay, this is a bit hover tab. Okay, so it seems like we're always there. I mean, let's just debug it. So whatever the mouse is, but the top, let's look at the renderer bounding box. Oh, it's left, top, right, bottom, 0. Wow. Okay. Okay, I mean, this isn't really nice. Yeah, I'm wondering, because that should actually be a pointer, and so we should. I mean, I'm wondering. Oh yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So now the tab. The tab is the tab of the pointer 3D0. And it has a render bounding box that actually looks reasonable. So, and here we have a tab. The tab is 3D0, And the render bounding box is actually okay. Yeah, I mean that's okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean that's fine. So the mouse X was actually bigger, and the bounding box right is 32. I mean, I think it's wrong anyway. Because right can never be 32. This must always be horizontal offset plus 32. So this is always horizontal offset minus 4. This is horizontal offset minus 4 plus 32. And everything is a float. And this is always the title with, no, what is that? Left, oh, left top. Okay, left top is, oh my god. Yeah, I mean, that explains it. The top is always 0 and the bottom is always 32. Maybe this is a reason for the misbehavior here. So, okay, I see, because the render bounding box in the first instance is not, it's just not correct, but now we have one. And I think that's fine. Yeah. So left is 4, top is 0, right is 36. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And so the horizontal offset is 200. And it is bigger than the vertical offset. But is it really true? And the mouse Y. I think we need to print this out. Mouse X equals mouse X. Mouse Y equals mouse Y. And we just not call this without any need. So it makes it easier to debug. Yeah, but we do. Let's just yeah, maybe that's better. So I think now we're still in the phase where there is no bounding box. Yeah, we just ignore everything here, and now we should be in the correct phase. So mouse X is actually 1181. Okay, I mean, this is right here. This must be like that. This must be like that. And v offset plus 10. So I think at least it's a bit more correct now. First one let through, and the second one, let's check. Yeah, makes sense. We are not here now. Okay. Yeah. This makes now much more sense. And let's just say I mean here we should but I think we are. Seems like here we are. Here we are. And yeah, it's a little bit the right is a little bit problematic. Let's quickly recheck. Because we only have one tab. We have only one tab, and this tab now, the left is 4 and the right is 36. So it must be 236, right? And if we are here, 200, yeah, okay. But this is 200. But 36 is not correct. The text width is not correct. Because the text width is 209. 260, it's alone around 50 pixels. This is not correct. So the title width is 53. What am I doing here? Ah yes, of course it's not 32. It's actually title width plus 16, so we use the same measurement as here. Okay, I think now we're good. I think now it's fine. Cautiously optimistic now. Cautiously optimistic. Just screw that now, and we will see. Oh no, it's not working. Ah no, I mean it maybe is even. Okay, this is a problem, you see. I mean, this is working now, but the vertical resolution is totally wrong. Yeah, it seems like it's completely just completely ignoring the vertical reality here, and the vertical offset is 32, and so if it's greater than 32, I mean, let's just debug this here again. Oh, I am a little bit stupid. So maybe that already fixes it. Actually, I guess it does, because that probably was just not correct in terms of the brackets. Here we go. And let's probably just let it run. So, hey, come on. So now it's correct. This is not correct, but this is. Yeah. So let's now, as the last hooray, let's maybe make some middle gray now. Or let's make it a little bit blue for now, just that we have a nice little contrast. And now we will export as mid blue background. And yeah, I think we can skip that, but when we render the main panel tab, main tab, so this is one thing when we are active, but there is another thing. If editor state current hover tab title equals the tab header title, then we will bind the texture of mid blue. There we go. I think it'll work. I think it'll be fine. I think it will be happy. Okay, I mean, at least it's at least it's somehow working. Let me quickly check. Something must be off with the mid blue BG. Mid blue BG. Oh yeah, I think I know. There is light gray because we never imported. We don't know. We don't have the texture in memory. Now it will work like a charm. Now it will work like a charm. Here we go. And the nice thing is it also works with that. And if we now have a second and a third asset, and we open all of them, then these are blue, this is white, and we can change this to here. Yeah, actually interesting. This is that, and the hovering also works. So I don't know about you, but I think this is actually quite nice. So this was it for today. Yeah, happy to continue next time, and I think we were making good progress. So let's keep it up and see you next time.